Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are going to be talking about a most asked topic, which is what is the intake timeline? I thought that I was pretty clear about the intake timeline in my previous videos, but I said, you know what? Let me just do a video that kind of explains it in a more in-depth way so that you guys can get a better understanding and a clearer understanding of how things work both behind the scenes and once you're inside your process. So if you're interested in the intake timeline, keep watching this video. So let's talk about the behind the scenes first. So when an organization wants to have intake, they have to go through an approval process. So for those of you who are kind of in front of the scenes, not knowing what's going on, lots of times when an organization takes a long time to start their process is usually because they're either getting things together or they have things together and they're looking for approval from their headquarters. So for those of you who are like, I expressed interest and I haven't heard anything, when they're going to start, what's going on, that's usually what's taking so long in most organizations. They either have a process and they're waiting on approval from their headquarters. So just be patient and give the organization a chance to get their documents together, because they have to make sure that they're like financial. If it's undergrad, the graduate chapter has to be involved in it. So if you're waiting on things like that, if you're waiting for the organization to get started, those are usually the behind the scenes things that take place that require the organization to take longer than usual. So just be patient and give the organization a chance to get started. Another question that I often get is about the timeline itself. So with the actual timeline, every organization and every chapter is different. You can have something as long as an actual process that can take anywhere from 3 weeks to 4 months. I'm just saying it may not be that long, but I'm just giving you a reference. Or it could be as short as 3 days, or even as short as 3 months or 2 months. It really depends on the organization and what they have going on. I will say from previous videos, check out my videos on pros and cons for fall intake as well as spring intake. They're separate videos. There are different timelines for different semesters. With it being fall semester, school typically starts August around September and then end in December. So you have a shorter window for intake for people who are doing intake in the fall season. Where in the spring, you're looking at 5 months of schooling, you have a little bit more time. Check out those videos for more information on the differences between those two. I'm not going to repeat that information. I will link those videos somewhere in this video for you guys. So actually going into the timeline of intake itself, you have what you call intake orientation, or Greek 101. That's an event that's usually open to the public. It's open to anyone who's interested in joining a Greek organization. This is the very start of your intake process, because a lot of institutions will require you to attend the Greek 101 session or intake orientation in order to even be eligible to participate in intake. Usually in those sessions, you're getting information about all the organizations, all the chapters. It's an opportunity for you to kind of do like a meet and greet to kind of get preliminary information as well as information related to interest gatherings that are forthcoming. A lot of organizations or even a lot of chapters at your institution will not openly state when they're having interest gatherings. That depends on the chapter, how they want to disseminate that information. They may solely give it to the people that they know they want in their organization, or they may post it on social media where it's open to everyone and everyone can see it and attend. With interest gatherings, those are again open sessions. It's kind of, for some organizations, is the actual official start of the orientation or the official start of the intake process for the chapter. You have to attend an interest gathering in order to be eligible for formal. It really depends on the chapter or the organization that you want to join, but if you're invited to the interest gathering, that's your very first step to being eligible to becoming a possible interest. So with the interest gathering, it's pretty informal. It's just to get information. The attire could vary. Check out my video on informal versus formal meetings to kind of get a gist of the differences between the two. But the informal is a way for everyone to be seen and for everyone to get to know the chapter in a more intimate setting, versus orientation where you're getting involved with all the organizations and all the chapters. So once you attend the interest gathering, you're most likely going to be eligible for formal based on the organization's requirements to join, as well as chapter preferences. So if you attend an interest gathering, it does not guarantee that you will be invited to formal. That is up to the chapter, but it is an opportunity for you to meet with the chapter and to get an idea of what formal rush would be like if you're eligible for formal rush. With interest gatherings, most likely, if you do not meet the GPA requirement, or if you do not meet the requirements of the chapter in order to join, you're not going to be invited to formal rush. So just bear that in mind when you're thinking of what's your next steps. You may or may not be eligible for formal rush just because you attended interest gathering. So just remember that as someone who's interested in joining an organization. So after the information gathering is formal rush. A lot of times people ask me, well, I went to the interest gathering. How long does it take for the organization to reach out to me about formal rush? That's something that depends on the chapter as well. Like I said, a lot of these organizations have timelines where they have to do specific things on specific days, or a specific thing has to be done within a specific time frame. So just give it time. A lot of organizations, it could take as long as a week. It could take as little as 2 days. It could take as long as 2 weeks, depending on what the chapter has going on. So after you reach that 2-week mark, that may be an indication that you were not invited or you were not accepted as a potential interest. That's okay. Just know that that's part of the process. Sometimes you have to wait a little longer than expected, especially with everything going on with COVID. It's a little difficult to do face-to-face interaction. So some things take a little longer than usual nowadays than when it did when I crossed back in the day. So with formal rush is the start of your application process. When you attend formal rush, most likely you're given the application to join the organization. Just because, again, you attend formal rush, it does not mean that you're guaranteed membership. It does not mean that you're guaranteed a candidacy. It just means that you are a potential candidate and you're invited to formal rush to see if this is something that the chapter wants to move forward with. So nothing's official until you've been inducted. We'll get to that in a second. So with formal rush, during this time, you could do your application, you could do your interviews, you could do your interest letter. All of these things kind of go into the formal rush process. Again, you're not officially a member or you're not officially in the organization until you've been inducted. So just because you attended informal, formal, application, interview, interest letter, you got the letter of acceptance and you paid your dues, it does not mean that you're gonna be inducted. Things happen. Sometimes people can't commit once they've been accepted and they end up dropping. So a lot of those things play into a factor when you're interested in joining an organization. Things can happen along the way, even after the acceptance process, where you're not inducted into the organization and you don't become a member. A common question that I receive related to formal rush is, if I pay my money, do I get it back? No. You do not get your money back. It is non-refundable. Nothing is refundable. If you apply to an organization and there's some issue on your end where you can't do it anymore, you will not get a refund. They will say thank you so much for your donation to the organization, and you will not get the money back. With everything going on with COVID right now, there were some changes that took place where some people who started their process in 2020 and they couldn't move forward due to COVID. I believe that there was some type of refund or something going on there. I'm not specifically aware because at that time my organization was not doing intake. But from my understanding, talking to other people, there was some type of refund taking place. That was a one-time thing. That will not happen again. Other contingencies have been in place for people due to COVID. So in the future, if you pay money to an organization and if anything happens on your end, you will not be refunded, but the organization, due to COVID, that time was able to help the people who applied and put money towards it. So just bear that in mind. But to answer the question, no, you do not get your money back. You're expected to commit. You're usually asked about the commitment prior to you making any payments. So if you are aware of the commitment and then you end up having an issue, that is your issue. That's not the organization's fault. So just bear that in mind when you're planning on joining an organization, that financial commitment is a real thing. And even if you can't commit to it financially, if you paid that money, you're not going to get that money back. So just bear that in mind. Going more into the process. So you say that you've completed your interview, you attended formal rush, you submitted your application. With the application portion of it, once you submit your application, it takes time for the headquarters to review those applications, to get back to the chapter, to let them know who they allow to move forward and who they don't allow. Again, it's a process. It could take as little as 2 days. It could take as many as a week. So again, patience is a virtue. Just give the organization some time to get back to you about your acceptance process. So once you've applied, you'll become either accepted or denied. You can receive that via email, phone call, whatever. Anything that occurs outside of the parameters of what headquarters says, I feel like I should say this, anything that occurs outside those parameters of what your paperwork says, where you get a phone call and they're like, exactly how sure do you want to be a part of this organization? The call, you guys know what I'm talking about when I talk about the call. Make sure that it is legal, because sometimes when you get the call, it's not the call that you think. It's that other call that we're not going to talk about. So make sure that you get the right call, because there are some calls that you would get that's not sanctioned by the organization. So make sure that you're doing sanctioned work for the organization that you want to join. But I digress. You'll get a notification from the organization, from the chapter specifically, that you've been accepted and can move through your intake process. Now let's talk about the actual intake process. So with the actual intake process, that is the process of you learning about the organization that you want to join. You're learning about the chapter, you're learning about the leadership, you're learning about the community service, all those good things. That is your intake process. It's just like being in school. So if you have other commitments where you feel like you can't learn what they're teaching you and learn what you're learning in school, or live your life as an adult while learning this information in grad chapter, that's something you need to express to your membership chair before you even get started with the intake process, because it's gonna become an issue in the future. Check out my videos on time management if you're not sure how to do it, because it's gonna be a thing, I guarantee it. So that's your intake timeline. With the timeline itself, that also depends on the organization, how long they need you to learn this stuff, how long you have to learn this stuff. So once you attend your meetings and intake and things like that, the whole shebang, you have an induction. And when you're inducted is when you're officially a member of the organization. They cannot take it away from you. Actually, they can. But if you're not doing anything terrible, that moment when you're inducted, you are a member in the organization for the rest of your life. Congratulations, you've reached the end of your intake process. So that was a lot. I hope that information was helpful for you guys. Give me a thumbs up if you found it helpful. If you have any questions for me, let me know. After you've attended, or after you've been inducted to the organization, I should also add that you may have a period where you can't wear your colors or wear your letters because you have to be revealed by the organization. Some people still do this. Some people still follow this tradition. Some people don't. With social media now, it's just super easy to do a show online and be done with it so that you can enjoy being out and being a member of your organization. But that may be something that occurs with the organization as well, where you're inducted, but you still can't be revealed until the organization officially reveals you. So that may be a thing, but that depends, like I said. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer them. You can message me on KelsTells, my Instagram, or you can email me directly. All that information is going to be in the description box below. I will also link the other videos that I discussed somewhere in this video for you guys. But I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.